Welcome back to Fridgestuck, Fridge Facts and Theories about Homestuck. It's been a while since we covered a troll, so let's talk about Alternia's last tangential princess, Feferi Peixes. What? Pronunciation in my Homestuck? Comic creator Andrew Hussie revealed on his forum spring that he pronounces our fuchsia witch's first name as Feferi. That opinion is factually incorrect. And not just because it sounds weird and it's really difficult to say. You see, Feferi was named by two of MS Paint Adventures forum goers, X-Rock and Zuki. While Zuki chose Peixes, since it's the Portuguese word for the Pisces constellation, X-Rox chose Feferi as a shortened form of the Latin Feferi, deriving from the Metasepia feferi, the species name for the flamboyant cuttlefish. This is the kind of overthinking I love. While researching for this episode, I've in turn learned how interesting a mollusk the flamboyant cuttlefish is. They're super small. It's one of the few cuttlefish that are toxic. They can camouflage in plain sight, and they live off a diet of fish and crabs. This explains the Condesce quite a bit, especially with her hatred towards cancer-based troll families. Feferi's Pisces symbol is reflected in her horns, which are slender and slightly curved. It's also shown in her weapon of choice, the trident, due to the line in the center of the symbol sticking out of the convex sides. Feferi's chum handle is cuttlefish color. This represents her wish to change the oppressive caste system on Alternia and replace it with her own version of it, since she is literally changing the definition of culling to suit her desires. Culling, in Feferi's mindset, is caring for the unfit and infirm. She shows this by keeping cages in her hive to try to protect her animal companions, for their own good, but is also totally fine with the thousands of cuttlefish escaping and letting them and the sea maple hoofs have the run of her castle. Feferi's typing quirk uses the right and left facing parentheses instead of an H, again reflecting her symbol. And when excited, she switches to capital E's and adds a hyphen before the E, making a trident. You might not need me to tell you this, but Fef is also a fan of nautical and fish-related puns, reflecting a bright and cheerful everyday attitude. However, it's shown that she drops her whole quirk for the sake of diplomacy. In a meta sense, Feferi dating Solix's captor was two puns wrapped up into one. Due to Solix's nature with duality and bifurcation, the fact that he was attracted to the troll with the astrological sign representing two fish is a slap to the face, in hindsight. And Feferi's attraction is downright Seussian. Like Dr. Seuss? One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Going back to tridents, let's talk about Strife Specibae. In art and in pop culture, tridents are associated with merpeople, or Poseidon, the Greek god of the seas, storms, earthquakes, and horses. Feferi's base weapon is Sidon's Entente, Sidon being the Greek word for fishery. An entente is a friendly agreement or an alliance between factions, reflecting Feferi's wish for peace between the blood castes. Her trident's name could also come from the phrase Triple Entente. The Triple Entente was the alliance between Great Britain, France, and Russia that was signed in August of 1907. While it was created as an understanding for peace, many historians also claim that the Triple Entente was one of the many causes of World War I, possibly hinting that our Finny Fuchsia heiress's actions might have had serious consequences in the long run, had she had come to rule. The Psi on the trident's title might also be a reference to the Psionic, the follower of the sign list that was forced to serve as the Condescension's helmsman on her ship, possibly hinting at a Black Rom romance between the two of them. In Homestuck, tridents are officially titled as 2 times trident kind. indicating that there's possibly a variant of trident that is single-ended. As shown in the comic, Alternian and Bephoran tridents are only wielded by trolls born in the fuchsia caste. The fuchsia color used in the comic is actually very close to a historical color called Tyrian purple, which fits considering that it sounds similar to tyranny and tyrant. Feferi's ancestor is the Condescension, the post-scratch version of Mina Peixes, the Thief of Life. We've covered the Condesce a lot, since she's more involved with the plot than any of the other ancestors. The Condesce ruled Alternia for billions of years, due to her caste royal bloodline. On top of that, she also gained control of her latent life powers. She used her powers to steal the life force from others and grant it to herself. Or grant it to those she wished to keep around. She even managed to develop yellow blood psionic powers and bronze blood animal control powers over her long lifespan. Somehow able to peer beyond space and time, it's believed that the Condesce developed the bloody high blood religion, based around Earth's juggalo subculture, in order to influence the violent purple bloods to serve her. High bloods embracing the ideology believed that the Condesce was totally cool, and therefore served as her chaotic neutral muscle, commanding true neutral patriots and lawful neutral legislators on Alternia. With the masses subjected, Her Royal Highness was able to focus on more important matters, like acquiring gold, rebuffing the red feelings of Dual Scar, and culling any heiress who dares to attempt to take over. Of course, the emergence of a radical like the mutant Signless would cause an uproar. Seeing a threat to her rule, the Condesce commands the High Bloods to take care of the post-scratch Seer of Blood, the clowns chaining him up and the Blue Bloods filling him with arrows. All is quiet for sweeps until the Summoner defied the Condesce, the Signless's Bephoran teachings at the rebellion's core. She managed to stomp out the Summoner and his followers, but knew that if the trolls united again, it would mean more trouble. She decided to set her sights beyond her planet, enlisting every adult troll to her space armada, and set out for universal domination. This left the world to be run by troll children and their Luci, including her own heiresses and her ticking time bomb of a Lucis. The Condesce paradoxically makes it to Earth in the early 20th century. She disguises herself as a human, Betty Crocker, starting a baking empire and marrying the famous humorist Colonel Sassacre. Jane and Jake enter the picture, and the Condesce learns about the game's prophecy about their children defeating her. She sets out to make Jane Jake's lives hell, but for some reason gets called away from the planet. Why did she leave? It was probably something to do with what Alternia was going through. The Scrub game caused the reckoning to go down on the planet, and the Condesce made a hasty journey back home. But due to the vast glub uttered by her former Lucis, her helmsman and most of her crew died in the process. She arrives at the planet's 612 sweeps after the reckoning, and the vast glub, to find her species basically extinct, and a visitor with a proposition. Lord English promises power and a chance to revive her species, but only if she can defeat his witch, the Handmaid. The Handmaid didn't give much of a fight. Now the Condesce is stuck with an unkillable misogynist that she quickly grows to despise and fear. She returns to post-scratch Earth and proceeds to make the lives of Alpha John, Alpha Jade, and Jane Crocker hell. She then takes over the Earth on 11/11/11 and begins implementing laws in an attempt to make humans more like trolls, including genetically modifying human blood color, introducing Luci to the planet, and instilling the insane clown posse as US presidents. Maybe keep your powers to yourself, hussy. She ultimately ends up flooding the Earth and makes her way to Durse and overthrows the Black Queen. She later captures Roxy Lalonde in order to force the Rogue of Void to purify the destroyed Matra Orb to save the troll species. But then game over happens, the Condesce personally killing Kanaya Merriam, Rose Lalonde, and Arania Serket. The timeline resets, and the Condesce fights and loses to the kids, Roxy dealing the final blow by stabbing her in the back with Beta Dirk's unbreakable katana. and thus was the end of the condescension. You want disturbing implications from the comic's soundtrack? No? Okay. All of Feferi's songs from the soundtrack are cute, upbeat, and have a tropical techno sound. Notable members are Feferi's theme, Love You, which has her laugh, and the Carefree Princess Berry Boo, which carries a melody from Jade Harley's Carefree Victory. Also, well, excuse me, Princess Berry Boo. Arguably one of the more confusing events concerning Feferi has to do with sound page Jade Wake Up, where both sessions witches see each other in the furthest ring, and then talk to each other several hours apart. And then later, Feferi shows up in a memory in the dream bubbles before she was officially stated as dead. People were so confused by post-sound page Jade Wake Up, since fans had yet to grasp the whole furthest ring exists out of time thing. So not everything happens in chronological order. Speaking of the furthest ring, in sound page Jade Enter, Dream Feferi's death mirrors her ex Moirail's Eridan Ampra's death later on. Also, in an ironic twist of fate, when the Prince of Hope later gets his hope crushed, he proceeds to destroy Feferi's aspect. Life. Do all Life players just have issues with leaving home? Mina runs away from home, Jane is literally homestuck, and Feferi still has to escape her fishbowl in order to have her adventure begin. Now, as an artist, I just appreciate the design of the life symbol. In terms of Feferi and Mina, it looks like tentacles, as a reference to their shared lucis, Glub Glub. It also looks similar to the breath symbol on its side, possibly hinting that a relative of John's would end up a life player. The connection to the two aspects may also be related to the phrase, breath of life. Of course, Feferi is the witch of life, an active class, but it's still up to fan speculation what a witch actually does. One interpretation that I'm particularly fond of is that a witch is one who breaks the rules of their aspect, with Jade bending the laws of physics to her will, and Feferi being responsible for the creation of an afterlife. The Dream Bubbles. Pre-death, Feferi spoke to the gods of the furthest ring, the Horror Terrors, and asked them to create a place for her friends to go when they die. It may also not be a coincidence that Fef is the first ghost to make an appearance that a main character is able to interact with. Notably, she interacts with her fellow witch, Jade. And the last Fridgestuck fact for Feferi Peixes is... Feferi's lucis, Glub Glub, was constantly hungry, and if her voice went above a whisper, she could screech the troll race extinct. So in order to keep her lucis from killing everyone, Feferi had no choice but to join forces with Eridan and Vriska Surket. Vriska would play her flarp sessions to take out young trolls to feed her spider mom, while Eridan killed the remaining lucis. Feferi would then feed the smaller lucite to hers. And Glub Glub is a giant lucis, with many titles, one of them being Emissary to the Horror Terrors, presumably because she is one. To the people of Homestuck's Earth, the Horror Terrors represented themselves subconsciously as friendly Squiddles, which earned them a poorly received early 2000s TV show. Hussey even liked to joke that the Trolls universe was created in a game session played by 48 Squiddles. Before this was outed as a joke, fans considered it fact, especially when considering the quote from Carcat Vantis saying that the Trolls have a zodiac of 48 signs, which correlates to Earth having 12 official zodiac signs, in supposed honor of their creators. This was pre-extended zodiac quiz, by the way. One thing that threw me for a loop was Glub Glub whispering the future of Feferi's peaceful rule, but considering that we're dealing with a creature from the furthest ring, where not everything happens in chronological order, this was actually foreshadowing Pre-Scratch Feferi. Pre-Scratch Feferi is the only Beforean troll ancestor mentioned in the entire comic. Her rule is said to have caused Before Us to be a utopia. albeit a very coddling utopia, where those higher up the caste system cared for those on the lower castes, and disabled trolls, like Latula Pyrope, would be culled in a similar manner to Feferi's animals on Alternia. Probably a good thing that Feferi had no influence from her ancestor. That probably would have ended very badly for everyone. Thank you guys so much for watching this Fridgestuck episode for Feferi Peixes. I hope you enjoyed. Is there a fact I missed? Is there a character or concept that you'd like to see? Leave it down in the comments below and it might end up on the show someday. Be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and check out my Patreon, and I will see you all next time. Bye!
Use conditioner, they said. It's a good idea, they said.
Look at how I woke up! What the?
Hey there. Consider becoming a patron, just like the phenomenal Gerald Thomas and Bleed Red.